Alright, I'm about to tackle a very serious topic. Trigger warning. I'm discussing things in this video that are very difficult to hear, and it may be upsetting for you to hear it. So you may have noticed in the news recently that historical allegations of child sex abuse in the church are being brought to light. These are allegations that are going back 40, 50 years and more, up until present day. But along with the news of the abuse, it appears that it comes hand in hand with a church leader of some sort, someone with responsibility who knew about the abuse and did nothing. Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury of the Church of England, has recently stepped down from his role because of this very thing. He didn't sexually abuse children, but he knew of someone who was sexually abusing children, and he didn't act on the information that he was given. The people who do nothing are almost as bad as the perpetrators themselves, in my opinion. It used to be that only the Catholic Church had a name for abusing young children, boys in particular. Sadly, something we got used to hearing about. But let's keep it real. Why would it only be the Catholic Church leaders who are guilty of sexually abusing children and covering it up? The devil is after all of us, no matter what church or religion you're a part of. So although extremely upsetting, it isn't surprising that reports are coming out about child sexual abuse and cover-up in the churches. That's all churches, all nations, countries, all denominations, all religions. Of course, this isn't new. This has always been happening, unfortunately. But a lot of it is now coming to the surface. And so it's not new news, but it's relevant news, relevant to us. Isn't it sad to have to say that our children are not safe, even in church? And not just there, obviously. Our children are not safe, full stop. Have you seen the film Sound of Freedom? It's an eye-opener, letting you know how big a problem this really is. Sexual exploitation, grooming, child abuse, very distressing to watch, I have to say. But it is the reality of the world that we're living in, unfortunately. What is happening when people are no longer desiring sex with another adult, but would prefer infants, innocent, undeveloped children? If not partaking, then enjoying watching. This is beyond debased. This is pure evil we're dealing with. You know that we're living in Sodom and Gomorrah right now, for real. And this place needs to be burnt down to the ground. Come out of her, my people. Sorry, this one gets me very emotional. Child sexual abuse and exploitation, along with institutional cover-ups, are rife across all levels of society, all organizations, all walks of life, even those who are meant to be protective services. So why would the devil not seek out those who represent Christ's church? Those in trusted moral positions within the church, those who are supposed to display integrity and right living as a model for unbelievers to aspire to, those who have access to the most vulnerable. He's especially going to go after the church, right? Let's remember that we are in spiritual warfare. And for those who don't know what that means, it means that we are fighting against spiritual wickedness in high places. There's an agenda going on behind the scenes in the unseen spiritual realm. There's a spiritual war taking place between good and evil. And what are they fighting over? They're fighting over you. They're fighting over your soul. The devil wants you as his. Jesus also wants you as his. And so the Holy Spirit uses God's true people to try and pull you over to the side where you receive salvation, where you receive healing, where you receive blessing. But the enemy comes into that same place, church, and he's also using God's people, his supposed people, and he is working on your destruction. He wants to hurt God by hurting you, especially by hurting those who profess to be Christians. And when I say he wants to hurt you, let's be more specific. He wants to destroy you. He wants you to forsake God. He wants your soul. He wants to devastate your life. And he's doing a good job, I have to say. Because what better way to ruin your life than to start from when you're a child, to inflict pain, trauma, and unimaginable damage. It is an absolute abomination that grown adults would target young children and do such a heinous thing. Yet it's becoming so common in the news. It is prevalent. It is beyond sickening. It really is. But see what the devil is doing. The devil is not only making sure that from childhood people are damaged, but he's trying to make sure many will never ever step foot in church ever again. That those abused children will grow up and they're unlikely to accept that there was a loving, protecting father watching over them, and thus reject God forever. So we shouldn't be surprised that the devil is going to come for our children at church. They are probably at the top of his hit list. But we, as adults, have the responsibility to care for our children and all children within our community. I think one of the most heartbreaking things to hear is that when these things are being reported, the children are either not believed, or the adult, the abuser, is the one that's protected and allowed to continue with the abuse. What on earth is going on? People of God in leadership positions with responsibility for their congregation allowing children to be inappropriately touched or made to do sexual things they shouldn't be doing, or worse, over and over again because they don't want their church to look bad. I'm guessing that must be the reason, because I can't think of any other reason as to why you wouldn't act on this information. Those in leadership positions who hear about suspicions of abuse or actual abuse, even hearsay, gossip, and do nothing about it. In the news, they ask the question, should this person step down from their position? Duh! Of course they should step down. They are neglecting the position they have been given. They had a duty of care. They cannot perform their job properly according to the job description. They are unsafe. Step down, resign, you have failed. Then they give an apology. That's all you think you need to do? Apologizing does what to someone whose child or themselves are the subjects to rape or sexual misconduct? There needs to be investigations, yes, but why isn't this including finding out exactly who knew and making them stand accountable for their failures? Or those people themselves should come forward and do the right thing. Don't keep quiet and hope you don't get found out. Confess and face the consequences. Do the right thing for a change. You're Christians, no? God sees everything. This happened on your watch. There's some people still in leadership right now who knew about this abuse, who are still in their position. And if they don't have it in their conscience that they should step down, someone needs to be finding these people and making them leave. I'll repeat, they are unsafe and they shouldn't be allowed to be in their position. Are you happy to send your kids to church knowing that these are the people responsible for escalating any concerns or disclosures to, reporting to the authorities? These same people that are allowed to make these decisions that affect your children. Who are the young people supposed to go to? A trusted person, right? Someone who is in a higher up position, and they are supposed to take action. Step down or get fired. You should be facing criminal charges. You should be going to prison. You allowed this to happen. You knew about it and did nothing. And all that's happening is you're losing your job. Reputation on the line. You get named and shamed in the press. That's it. Some people aren't even getting named. Well, all that is done in the darkness will be exposed to the light. And we're starting to see this exposure happening more and more. And rightly so. Expose them, yes. And let's be honest. This is not a problem that just happened decades and decades ago. This is very relevant right now. I've heard stories, sad stories of people who reported abuse in church. They were the ones that were made to feel guilty. I know of many churches that don't have a safeguarding person appointed. This is not seen as a priority for some reason. Safeguarding policies are not about writing lengthy documents and making sure that you've got them on your website because you legally have to. Safeguarding policies are supposed to be risk assessment, strategies, and how to deal with reports of abuse or suspicion of abuse, how to deal with people who are known sex offenders who come into your church. Does your church have an appointed safeguarding person? Does your teams have safeguarding training? Is enough being done in our churches to protect our children? But you know what? It's not just the church that is responsible. Let's keep it real. We all are. How many times as parents do we just push our children off into Sunday school or Sabbath school or children's church, whatever you call it, but we don't really know anything about the leaders, the adults who are there, and we just get on with enjoying our church service. We trust our children are in safe hands, but we have no idea who can be trusted and who can't. What about when the kids go off to camp? It's a difficult one, trust me, because we don't want to be suspicious of everyone, and we want our children to have a church experience tailored to their age group. We want them to play with our children and enjoy being at church. But here is a problem that has been highlighted within churches that we simply cannot ignore. I mean, it's done in secret. It's not gonna be obvious. We need to pay attention, and we need to have a church that is paying attention to and acting accordingly. Remember, they are especially going to target the vulnerable. They're going to target those whose parents don't really pay much attention, those from troubled backgrounds or broken homes, those in care. We all need to have keeping children safe in the front of our minds, and not just our own children. The devil is in your midst and he's after our children. Be vigilant. And of course, we must not neglect to pray over our children and the children in our community. If you're a part of the church, there should be a dedicated prayer team, as well as anyone in the children's team who should be praying for the children. Praying for their protection, but also praying for discernment. Sorry, this has turned into more of a rant than it is a news and commentary, but you can understand why, right? This is not about one particular leader or one particular church. No church is exempt. No leader is exempt. No adult is exempt. Take responsibility. Pastors, elders, deacons, leaders, teams, parents, grandparents, uncles, aunties, godparents. Even if you have no children, we all have to be vigilant. We have to be responsible for our young people. From babies all the way up to teenage years. They're targeting every age. We cannot allow the devil to continue to do this to our children, to our community. Put on your armor, people. We're in a war. Jesus will return. Come soon, Lord.